Hello and welcome to the JSA studio. I'm your host, as always, Nathan, and today I'm coming at you with an extra special video. This is a video that I've been working on for weeks, and that is we are going to go through over 20 plays of Bryce Underwood, stretching from the spring game to this past week at Wisconsin. And we're going to talk about how he has progressed this season and how the offense has changed to better suit him, okay? But before we get into the video proper, I am going to ask you, and really beg this time, for you to like, comment, and subscribe, especially if you like these sort of long-form film breakdown type videos. I'd be willing to do it for other players potentially as well. Okay, I like doing this kind of stuff. So be sure to like the video. Okay, if you want to see more stuff like this, be sure to let me know in the comment section, and then subscribe and hit that bell so you don't miss it if I do make more videos like this. But now with the intro done and out of the way, there's only one thing left to do, and that is to get started by starting with the overview of what this video is going to be. So in this video, I'm going to effectively do 3 different film sessions, okay? I'm going to take you through a specific point that I wanted to illustrate, which is how the offense changed and adapted to Bryce Underwood after the Oklahoma game, and how that helped him develop and gain some confidence, okay? The second one, I'm going to do just sort of like an amalgamation of him and how he progressed, generally speaking, throughout the season. And then finally, in the third section, we have me breaking down a bunch of plays from the Wisconsin game, talking about the leap that he took after the bye week, okay? Because he took a leap. All right. Now, couple of quick custodial things here. After I'm done in this section, you're going to hear me talk about in the spring game, saying I'm going to go back several times in the spring game. That was an idea that I had, and I didn't do it. Okay, so ignore that. All right. Also, you're going to see several live action sort of things like this, because when I'm breaking down film, you're not going to see my face, all right? It's just going to be me drawing on the screen of me. I have a beard in one of them. I'm wearing a different shirt. This was filmed over several weeks, so sorry about the continuity errors, all right? But what this video is going to be is me trying to show you what I notice from Bryce Underwood from the spring game to game 1, to game 2, all the way to Wisconsin. I'm going to talk about his progression and what has happened this year, because he has improved basically every single week. All right. And that is rare. You don't normally see that. Normally you see guys, maybe they'll get a little bit better at a couple of things, but then like 8-9 starts in, all of a sudden it all clicks and they put it all together. That's what happened to Lenora Sellers last year, okay? And I haven't watched him this year, so I don't know if he's good or not. I know everybody's saying he's overrated. No, I don't know. I haven't watched him, okay? But that's what happened to Lenora Sellers last year. About halfway through, maybe game 7, game 8 for him, it all just clicked and he figured it out. And you see that with a lot of young quarterbacks, okay? Happened to Trevor Lawrence as well. After he had that big break going into the playoffs, he came back a different player after his freshman year. Before that, he was just a solid young quarterback that was kind of being carried by the play calling and the talent around him. He came back after that break before the playoff game, that month-long break, and took that leap to being that elite number 1 overall pick type of player that Trevor Lawrence ultimately became. So, normally you don't see the incremental steps. Normally it's one big step. It's a giant leap, okay, if it happens, all right? Or typically another thing that you'll see, it's not typical, another thing that you'll see is a guy will improve from year 1 to year 2 in the offseason, and then improve from year 2 to year 3, and then potentially from year 3 to year 4, okay? but it won't really progress in the season, okay? Dylan Raiola, I think so far this year is a good example of that. Clearly a better player than he was last year, but he's still the same player he was game one as he is this past week against Michigan State. All right. So I think that's a good example there. All right. Now, with all of this done, we're going to go ahead and get into that first section of me breaking down film here. So I hope you enjoy it. So to start off here, this is something that we're going to do several times in this video, but we're going to come back to the spring game. Right here, spring game. This is the Michigan spring game. Really just to show you Bryce Underwood and how raw he was when he first came in. And then we'll move on to the other games, kind of talk about how he's progressed all through, 4 games into the season, which is not insignificant. That's a third of the year. So this play right here, real simple play design. Marlon Klein, the tight end here, he's going to come run across the field like this, little drag route, crossing route, whatever you want to call it. Everybody's terminology is different. The real concept is going to be between Andrew Marsh and I think it's Jalen Hoffman, number 42. These two players right here are going to run a simple hitch and clear out route combination. All right. And then you have him coming over the field. So effectively, the way that this would work read-wise is something that can be read pre-snap. You don't actually need to read anything post-snap 90% of the time with a play like this, okay? This is because if it's man-to-man coverage, what's going to happen is that this corner out here is going to lock in on here, and he's going to back up a little bit because that's what you do at the start. And then you can just kind of rifle the ball in here as he breaks, and you get a quick little gain. All right? If it's zone, however, you have to see what happens here with TJ Metcalf. All right? So this play is zone. All right? They're going to be running just a little cover 3 concept, at least to this part of the field. Okay? The corner out here, he's going to be responsible for everything about 7 yards back from here to the sideline and back again. And TJ Metcalf is going to be responsible for everything in front of that. This zone right here is called the curl. I can't write with this thing, but it's called the curl to flat. All right. That's what this area is called. Back here, you just call that the deep third. All right. Simple concept. And what's going to happen here, Bryce Underwood, I don't think understood it was zone. I don't think he read what was going on this play particularly well. However, it's also the spring game, so it doesn't matter that much. So now we're going to go ahead and start the play here. Snap the ball. And again, I think Bryce Underwood's read on this play pre-snap was incorrect. Okay? Now, what is he going to do? He is going to look at where these guys are right now and see he is playing the zone here. He's going to actually pass him off to this backside backer and or the other backers here. But, yeah. Anyway, then we come out over here. And Bryce Underwood thinks that TJ Metcalf here is going to carry the seam route up the field here. And that's not what's going to happen. He's going to do exactly what he's supposed to do and pass him off to the corner who's just off the screen over here. So the correct read on this, given that TJ Metcalf is looking over here like he's going to pass him off, would be to throw the seam route and rifle it in here using that arm talent before Sullivan can get over or the corner that's off the screen over here can get over in there. That is the correct read on this play. Instead, Bryce Underwood, who I think read man-to-man pre-snap, is going to try to throw the curl. And instead, TJ Metcalf reads it, and he's going to come over here and get a hand on the ball and knock it down. All right? So, what does that mean, realistically speaking? Well, it means right now, he is kind of struggling a little bit when it comes to pre-snap recognition, all right? And that's in the spring game, all right? So what does that mean? It means that he has all of fall camp, the rest of spring camp as well, and a little bit of time in the offseason when he can do stuff on his own to get better at stuff like this. All right. Now we're going to flash forward to the Oklahoma game where I'm going to show you another play here where I think Bryce also struggles to recognize pre-snap what's going on with the defense. So this is the play against Oklahoma that I was talking about here. And this is, again, another simpler concept that most of the time you will be able to figure out what's going on pre-snap, and then you know where to throw the ball based off of your read pre-snap. This is just a simple, the tight end here I think is Zach Marshall. He's going to come out here and run just a little out-breaking route and then settle. Then you have the slot wide receiver here. He is going to run a fade, a slot fade. And then Godwin down here, at least I think it's Godwin, number 9. He's going to come down here and run a little hitch. All right. The point of this concept is to put this defender in a bind. If he falls back, then he's leaving either the hitch down here or the hitch right here opening, depending upon what the corner down here is doing and what he's doing. All right. In which case, it's a relatively simple play. Largely due to leverage, he's going to be open if he carries the slot fade deep, all right? Which is what's going to happen, all right? And what are the pre-snap indicators for man versus zone, all right? So here you've got your safety. Where's he looking? Where are his eyes? Oh, he's looking right at Bryce Underwood. Okay. Here you got your outside linebacker / weak side or strong side safety. Where's he looking? Oh, he's looking right at Bryce Underwood. All right. Free safety over here. Where's he looking? Oh, he's looking right at Bryce Underwood. All right. So this is telltale, obvious zone coverage type of stuff going on here. Again, I think Bryce Underwood read this wrong. I think he looked maybe at the corner up top here, because he was looking at the wide receiver as opposed to him at the snap. So I think maybe, I don't really know what was going on, but he, I believe, read the play wrong. And, he's got a real good pocket here. But look at how open he is. Due to leverage, this is going to be a solid gain here, because the defender is right back over here, off screen slightly. So he can rip this right over here, and it's going to be a solid gain on first down. He's going to get 5-6 yards. Who knows? Now, the correct read probably actually would have been the hitch, which is off screen, down off screen that I can't even get to with my mouse, where he rips it out over there, because what's going to happen here as we continue and look downfield, both the outside corner over here, who's supposed to be looking at him, and the inside slot guy are both carrying McCulley here into the seam. He bails, this corner number 9, bails immediately. If he throws the ball down here, it's a first down and maybe 15, 20 yards. But Bryce Underwood did not recognize what the correct read would have been pre-snap. Okay, so let's go back here to the beginning. So what we saw happen on this play was he is going to drop back and carry the seam, and the corner down here is also going to drop back, okay? So this is some sort of coverage bust. I got to be honest with you. I don't really know what coverage you have that isn't man and very obviously zone, where the inside slot corner with somebody outside of him is going to carry the seam, and also the corner down here is also going to carry the seam, all right? So he kind of messes this up a little bit, but he doesn't, because the quarterback didn't take advantage of it, okay? So the correct read would have been to throw it down here because he went deep. That's what you're supposed to do in this sort of situation. But again, Bryce Underwood, right now in his development, not able to recognize pre-snap what's going on. He throws it deep because he thinks it's man coverage. And in man coverage, This deep corner, actually, I'll go ahead in time so we can actually see this deep corner here. This deep corner right here in man coverage would not be here. He would be down here with Godwin. So if it's man coverage, throwing the slot fade is the correct read. Because then, if this guy isn't here, right here, this corner isn't here, look at all, he's got this entire area of the field to throw the ball to and give McCulley a solid chance to get it. But he didn't make the correct read pre-snap, okay? So he damn near threw an interception. I actually haven't let this play yet. But he damn near threw an interception. Right through the outstretched fingertips of this corner, number 9 here, okay? This is not concerning, but it is stuff that young quarterbacks have to go through, okay? Now we're going to go ahead and move on and talk about how you can address a quarterback's inability to properly read the defense beforehand by using movement and or simplifying the play calls. So, once again, one of the best ways to counteract a young quarterback's inability to recognize coverages pre-snap is to get him on the move. Simplify things, okay? It's just a simple little read here, all right? Godwin's going to come out here into the slot. Morgan's going to run a little route over here, and McCulley's going to come across the field, all right? So what's going to happen here on this play, they're going to send Godwin in motion, which is another thing that you can do to let the quarterback know what the coverage is. Nobody's running with him, so it's probably not man. You're going to fake the handoff, which again is another thing to suck these linebackers over here up to make things simpler. Now, Godwin is actually open right here, but like, what is he? He's going to get like 3-4 yards if he throws the ball here. And on 2nd and 8, that's not necessarily the worst thing in the world, but it's not the best thing in the world either. But he was covered early, so Underwood went off of him. And he's, right now, he's looking at Samaj Morgan down here, who's off the screen. He's not open either. So he knows, okay, I don't got anybody anywhere near me. I got my crosser in Donovan McCulley coming across the field here. So he's going to wait for him to get across the field. Then he's going to use his arm talent, throw the ball in there. Now, this wasn't necessarily the greatest decision of all time, because if this linebacker's a better player, he's going to be in better position, and that's going to make a play. But this is Central Michigan. You can get away with that, so it doesn't matter all that much. Now, this play here, I'll let it run a little bit longer, I guess. This play is, to me, an acknowledgement by Chip Lindsey that they really needed to simplify things down for Bryce Underwood and stop running a lot of plays that necessarily require him to make pre-snap judgments or read things post-snap, because he's not doing that quite yet at this stage of his development. It's just not happening right now. So we're going to go ahead and look at another play here, because here, again, this is Central Michigan. Doesn't matter all that much. They're not good. They can't hang with this team. Michigan beat them by 60 points, all right? So we're going to look at a very similar play concept against Nebraska right now. So this is the play against Nebraska that I was talking about. Very simple concept here. So first thing you notice from a play calling perspective, Nebraska on this drive had their corners up. All right. Now, Nebraska's got, honestly, very good corners and pass defense. They're a very good pass defense team. So they're up here on the line of scrimmage. They're actually playing some variant of cover 2 where the corners are going to be staying around the line of scrimmage here. So the play design on this play is pretty simple. Again, I think this is Hoffman. He's going to go release downfield. It's effectively just a clear out route. All right. Then you're going to have Godwin come across in motion, and then he's just going to run the flat route. And then you have the player that the play is designed for, which is McCulley. He's going to run a little drag across the field and pick up the first down. All right. So again, it's going to be a play action to the running back over here to the right, and Bryce Underwood is going to turn around and run out over here. to the bottom of the screen. Snap, there goes Godwin across the field. Play action. You can see Hoffman is pulling everybody deep here. Godwin is going to come out over here. And the read, quote unquote, on this play is really very simple for Bryce Underwood. He's looking at him right here. And that's it. If he drops, you throw it to Godwin. If he stays near the line of scrimmage where Godwin is, you're going to throw it behind him to McCulley. Now, hypothetically, if this guy wasn't 12 yards down the field and he jumped the middle route of McCulley, you could then throw it to Hoffman. But that's not what happens, and it hardly ever happens. So he's coming over here, and here's Bryce Underwood. He's looking over here. He's seeing, oh, shit, there's my corner. He's running out here. He's got no idea there's a guy coming across the field here. McCulley's wide open. He's then going to look at McCulley. You can see that head nod just slightly. Very much. Very slight. You can see his head move if you look real close. Right here, where's his eyes? He's looking right at the corner, right at the guy he's reading. Now, a couple of seconds later, he's looking at that corner. Bam. Eyes move. Now I'm looking at where I'm throwing the ball. That is good stuff out of Bryce Underwood, and it's better play design by I almost said Bryce Underwood. Better play design by Chip Lindsey by simplifying the offense and allowing Bryce Underwood to use his athleticism to move around where he's more comfortable than just standing right now at this point and being asked to read a defense, okay? By moving him around, Chip Lindsey is allowing him to not only use his athleticism and have the option to run, but it's also simplifying the game for him. Because everything past Bryce Underwood over here is completely irrelevant. All of these players over here don't mean shit on this play. Every single one of them. All right? So all he has to worry about is what the hell is this corner doing on this play? That's all he has to worry about. If he dropped back, you throw it to Godwin, you get a solid gain. He comes up forward, like he is right now, then you throw it to McCulley behind him. And then you have an emergency little guy right here in case you need it. But then, yeah, so this is a great play design by Chip Lindsey. It's a good read by Bryce Underwood. And it's also showing, I think, more competency from a play calling and play design perspective than it is about Bryce Underwood, who right now is just a young quarterback that doesn't know how to read the field or really recognize pre-snap what the defense is doing very consistently. So this is another play that I wanted to just highlight here. This we're going to keep with the play action boot here. What you're going to see is all the offensive line are going to do reach blocks like this, setting up a zone run, and then they're not actually going to get downfield because it's a play action here to haze the running back. Now, as far as the pass concept goes, it's pretty simple. You've got Godwin out here. He's going to run a little out. You have Marshall, the tight end. He's going to run deep, a little out, flag route is what we used to call it. And then you've got McCulley running across the field in the second level. So first level, you've got Godwin. Second level, you've got McCulley. Third level, you've got Zach Marshall. And Zach Marshall is actually going to be left open on this play. Now, it's also a bootleg, so Underwood's going to get around and play. This is not a, spectacular play by any means. This is just a miss. And I wanted to talk about this because I think there's a narrative been going around, largely on Twitter. And no, it's not X, it's Twitter. Largely on Twitter, that Bryce Underwood is completely not at fault for accuracy concerns, okay? No, he's had his moments. He's missed a lot of throws that were open. It's not just this one. This one was just the first one I thought of, and I kind of knew where it was in the video I was looking at. So, this is just a miss. It is open. It is open. Make no mistake. It's open. It's also the right read. This is a better pass. look at where this is. A, I think he lofted the ball too much. He probably should have. Now, he had somebody chasing him, so that could have affected this as well. But this is 2nd and 13, and you've got a big-ass chunk play wide open, okay? I think this ball should have been more on a line here. So that's one thing that he learns. But he lost it downfield. Because even if this ball is perfectly thrown, and this ball is another foot down, it's right over here, and it's going to go right into the breadbasket for Zach Marshall. Here. He's going to get lit up if he catches that ball. And maybe he holds on to the ball, maybe he doesn't. But I think he probably should have put that ball more on a line instead of lofting it like we see him do here. Now, again, he was being chased. I understand that by 52 here for Oklahoma. But I'd like to see him be able to get some more mustard on that ball, get it more on a line, more on a rope. All right. So that's just a play that I wanted to highlight here, because even though Michigan has had some major problems with drops, okay, Samaj Morgan, I believe, is credited with 4. Godwin is credited with 4. I think McCulley has 1 or 2 as well, and those are your wide receiver 1, 2, and 3, okay? So, yes, there's been a lot of drops, and his numbers have been not as good as they could have been had those balls not been dropped. Some of that is, they're not used to having a quarterback with the arm talent that Bryce Underwood has. Some of that is Bryce Underwood not particularly putting the ball in places that would allow the receiver to catch it easily, and most of it is the wide receivers just dropping the pass due to lack of concentration or whatever. But Bryce Underwood is far from blameless when it comes to these sort of things. Ball placement has kind of been an issue a little bit, all right? It's not as big of an issue as it was with any quarterback last year, nor is it the biggest problem in the world, okay? Like, it's just a little bit of an issue. It's not a nitpick, but it's not a big deal either. It's somewhere in the middle. Hi, Nathan of the future interjecting himself here into this point of the video, because there's a couple of points that I want to make here at this point that I didn't make later on or when I was talking about this stuff. And those points here are, I've kind of gone through my progression where I've talked about Bryce Underwood's inability to recognize stuff pre-snap, which is a consistent concern. Okay, both of his interceptions, I think, were the results of that as well. I didn't break them down here because I don't necessarily think that they were the best place to illustrate that point. But all in all, there's a couple of notes here that I want to add into this conversation before we move on to a little bit more negative stuff and then some positive stuff at the end. The first thing is reading the defense pre-snap and especially post-snap is very hard to do, okay? It's effectively just something that you've got to actually play games to get, all right? Even quarterbacks that can intellectually understand what you are looking for, all right, pre-snap, all right, it's a different animal when you're on the field, okay, because you got to deal with communicating to the offensive line, potentially audibling, getting the running back lined up, or changing his side if you think they're blitzing from the other side. There's a million things that you've got to do pre-snap. You got to deal with crowd noise if it's on the road, all right? So it's a whole different animal to be able to do all of that while also looking at the defense. And Bryce Underwood isn't there yet, but I have a lot of reason to suspect that he's improving quite rapidly and will probably be able to get there. So that's the first thing that I wanted to talk about. Also, this wasn't actually in my notes that I have here, but it's also really easy for me to sit here having watched the film several times and being able to pause time and look at shit pre-snap to figure out what's going on post-snap. All right. So you can take that with a grain of salt. All right. I can't do what Bryce Underwood does. Otherwise, I'd be getting paid $3 million to be the quarterback for the University of Michigan. All right. So, all right. Now, generally speaking, I don't take those types of criticisms seriously because I'm not presenting myself like I can do the things that he can do. I'm just offering information, I suppose, and opinions. And after all, what do I know? I'm just some asshole on the internet giving you his opinion. That's the whole point of the goddamn show. It's the name of the channel. Second point that I want to make. Chip Lindsey and Sharon Moore deserve a lot of credit for the maturation that Bryce Underwood has undergone so far through this year, because they really, really simplified things. They really simplified things after Oklahoma. And they said, we're going to let you run more, which is going to get your confidence going, which means that you're going to make the right reads and be more confident in delivering the ball. It's a whole different ball game with Bryce Underwood now in these past two games against Central Michigan and Nebraska than it was against Oklahoma, or even to an extent New Mexico. Although New Mexico, they just don't have the talent to compete with Michigan, so you can get away with a lot of stuff. But Chip Lindsey and Sharon Moore do, I think, deserve a shout out here, which is not something I talked about in the rest of the film breakdowns and stuff. So I wanted to do that here, give them a lot of credit for this. The two plays that I showed you are not the only times that Bryce Underwood failed to recognize things pre-snap. From what I can tell, he's probably batting about, like 2 out of 3 right now. Which, if it was baseball, I shouldn't have said batting, because if you're batting 666 at baseball, you're the greatest baseball player of all time. But in football, that's not great. You got to be damn near 100% in football, in terms of stuff like this. So he gets got every now and then. Sometimes the offensive line holds up that he can actually just look at all of his receivers and figure out what the fuck's going on, or scramble a little bit and then scramble drill, and he can be an athlete and he'd just feel what's going on. All right. But as I mentioned earlier on, both of the interceptions, I think, were results of him not understanding what the read was pre-snap, and not being at the point in his development right now where he can do a second read, or even most of the time a first read. You started to see that against Nebraska and Central Michigan. You started to actually see him making a read, which is not something he did in the spring game. It was not something he did in the first 2 games. He was not even reading anything. He was just fixating on a guy, and if it wasn't open, he didn't know what to do. Okay, so that was a big step forward alone. All right. So with those 3 points made, I am going to go ahead and let my past self take it over for more film breakdowns. This play right here, which, again, right now I am kind of picking on Bryce Underwood a little bit. This one's much more of a nitpick than everything else we've gotten to so far here on this play. But on this play, I just want to talk about here the youngness at the quarterback position, because there's a lot of stuff that you can clean up the more reps you get. Here on this play, there's 1 second left, so they're barely getting the ball off on 1st and 10 after an Oklahoma touchdown. So that's not ideal. But what's going to happen here is Bryce Underwood is going to turn the wrong way. He's going to go to his right as opposed to his left to fake this handoff. And Justice Hayes is going to be like, what the fuck are you doing? And he's going to be confused for a minute. And because of that, he's going to end up whiffing on this backer right here, who's going to blitz at the snap. Okay? And now, I do know for certain, on this play at least, I'm pretty certain that this one is on Bryce Underwood. Because sometimes the running back can go the wrong way. Sometimes, he was supposed to go this way and he went this way. That can happen, okay? This time, I'm pretty sure this one's on Bryce Underwood, all right? And the reason for that is because a lot of the time, in plays like this, where you're pretty sure they're going to blitz, here, he's on his toes. So I'm looking at this, if I'm Justice Hayes, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, oh yeah, he's going to blitz. He's on his toes. He's creeping towards the line of scrimmage here. I'm pretty certain that number, I think it's 38 here, is going to blitz. So if that happens, I as a running back can say, fuck the fake handoff, I got to get up here and block. Now, normally you see that more with pressure off the edge where it's a little bit more obvious, and then he just bails immediately to go out here. But that's not what happened on this play. Snap the ball. Bryce Underwood turns to his right. Bryce Underwood's like, oh shit, where are you going? Well, I'm coming over here, where I'm supposed to be going. Anyway, start the play again here. Bryce Underwood's just going to go through it, act like nothing happens. But if you see Justice Hayes, he's looking at him. He's shaking his arms like, what are we doing? I'll go back a little bit. He's got his arms out. He's got his arms out right here. Like, what are you doing, man? Which is kind of funny. But then because of that, he's like, what are you doing? And he's just confused for a second. And he's going to be late getting over to the blitzer here, which would be his responsibility. Because running back responsibilities for pass protection, generally speaking, work like this. He's going to work outside in, all right? Or inside out, rather. I said that backwards. Inside out. So the guy that is blitzing up the middle and coming free is more important than the guy blitzing out here, all right? Now, 94 is going to come off the edge relatively free, but that doesn't matter that much because both of these guys are going to blitz. What's going to happen is that he's going to blitz, and the left guard over here, the Phobie, is going to come in and block him. He's supposed to blitz. You got to pick him up, all right? He's coming free because it is what it is, and Evan Link's going to take the D tackle right in there, all right? So that's the way that the pass protection is supposed to work. But because of the confusion on the fake handoff here, or just, again, look at, he's just shaking his hands like, what are you doing? He notices this late, realizes, oh, fuck, I can't do anything. Now, it doesn't help that the right guard here got his ass beat, Norton. But the whole offensive line kind of got their ass beat on this play. And then the final thing, of course, is you're right here. Fucking throw the ball away, dog. You're well past the pocket. The pocket's like over here. All right, throw the ball away. Throw the ball away. It's 1st and 10. Live to see the next down. Instead, he's going to run and stumble for no reason. And there also was a holding call on the play. All right, so but still, you don't need to be diving headfirst into the sideline here. That's not what you want to do as a quarterback. Throw the ball away, which is something that young quarterbacks struggle with, which I just can't understand why so many young quarterbacks struggle with throwing the ball away. Like, I just don't understand it fundamentally. Maybe it's because I'm not that level of competitiveness or something, but I cannot fathom why he wouldn't just throw the ball away in a situation like this. Instead, he's going to lose 5 yards. Now, there also was a penalty, so it doesn't matter that much, but a lot going on in that play that's not great. That is largely just due to inexperience at the quarterback position. All right, we've talked enough smack on Bryce Underwood. All right, let's move forward. We're going to watch more Central Michigan and Nebraska film here. We're not going to go backwards. So I'm going to keep it more positive towards the end of this thing here. Here, we've got, I think, what is a maturation from Bryce Underwood, but it could also just be the coaching staff letting him off the chain here a little bit. All right, the schematics of the pass play doesn't matter. What's going to happen is that he's going to look around. His first read's not going to be open. And then he's going to see the C part right over here. And he's going to say, fuck it. It's third and 5. I can get out here and get some yards. I can get the first down. So this is not something that we saw him do in the first 2 games. But he's done it the past 2 games now as well. So he's going to snap the ball. And again, the concept on the pass game here doesn't really matter. It is zone coverage, but he is going to look at here and say, I got to step up anyway. So fuck it. I'm just going to tuck it and get the first down here. Running all the way out here. And I'm going to get there. And I'm going to be the superb athlete that I am. Shove his ass into the ground, try and stay in bounds and fail. If he could have stayed in bounds, he might have had a real shot at scoring on that play. But, it doesn't matter that much. You're playing Central Michigan. You'll have plenty of opportunities to score. But I just wanted to highlight this play because this was kind of the first time we really saw him take off on a play where he just noticed that it's like, oh, I can get the first down. Bam. Go. Nice and easy. So this play is another good play to show the maturation of Bryce Underwood here. Basic concept up here to the top of the screen. Samaj Morgan is going to run downfield here and then break out. All right. And then McCulley here is going to run to the yard marker and then break out as well. The idea of this play is that you're hoping that it's cover 3 or man-to-man. And the idea is you're going to put this corner in a bind if it's cover 3. Because he's going to come out here, and if he jumps the under route, which he is going to do, then it's one-on-one with this guy, and Samaj Morgan has leverage deep. All right? Now, what's actually going to happen on this play is both of these guys right here are going to end up jumping the underneath route, and then Samaj Morgan is going to be left wide open. All right? So backside, you've got Godwin running a little crosser over here, and then he's going to come out here and run a little out route. And then you have Justice Hayes splurting out over the middle for a check down late. All right, but if we see here on this play, let it run here. Bryce Underwood is going to look over to his left because that's where the main read on this play is going to be. He's going to look out over here. He's going to notice the corner jumping it. And then, bam, look at this right here. Evan Lake's done a pretty admirable job this year at left tackle. He hasn't been great by any means, but he's been solid, maybe even good in pass protection. And he's had some mental mistakes and whiffs in the run game. But here, Bryce Underwood is under a little bit of pressure. Just a little bit. Can't fully step into the play, and he's going to, or step into the throw, and he's going to drop a dime. He's going to hit Samaj Morgan right in stride. Throws it right in the bucket. That's what, like, that's brilliant. The ball is placed right there. That's perfect. All right. So he's doing that, and then Samaj Morgan's going to walk in for the score touchdown. It's a great play. It was designed well. It was simple enough for Bryce Underwood to recognize what was happening, okay? The first 2 games of the season didn't really see Bryce Underwood even making these simple sort of one-side reads, okay? But we did see that against Central Michigan and against Nebraska, okay? So this is the maturation of Bryce Underwood. And what this could eventually be is that I'm hoping by the end of the year, maybe, we'll be able to see him progress from one read to a second read without bailing in the pocket, all right? That's the next step for him, all right? And this is probably something that he'll have the opportunity to work on in the bye week this past week before they come out and play a very bad Wisconsin team that they should drop 40 on. So I think there's a lot of reason to be excited for Bryce Underwood heading forward, largely because of what we saw against Central Michigan and what we're going to talk about next against Nebraska, but also because they had the bye week and an opportunity to work on things. So this play right here is real quick and real simple. Samaj is just going to run a little bubble screen. They've got Bredesen in motion. He's going to come out here and block. And McCulley out here is also going to block Samaj Morgan because of the leverage and because of what's going on over here, is going to have a very easy and quick lane to pick up some serious yardage. Okay, this is a good play call at the time. Nebraska got caught sleeping a little bit. But what I really want to highlight on this play is the ball placement. Because as I let it go here, Samaj Morgan, look at where he is catching the ball. He is going up the field. The ball is in front of him. So he's going up the field. All of his momentum is there. Okay, if the ball's thrown behind him, he's still got some space to come in here. But he's off his block. So he's going to be able to come in and tackle him probably before he gets to the first down marker. So it'd be 3rd and short probably if this ball is thrown behind him. And we've seen Bryce Underwood throw not very accurate passes in the screen game so far this season. Okay, there was one specifically against Oklahoma where he threw it to Justice Hayes, and Justice Hayes had to turn around. It was like 3rd and 15 or some shit. They were running a halfback screen, and Justice Hayes might have had a pretty solid chance at getting some quality yards there had they, had Bryce Underwood actually thrown the ball on target. But here, Samaj Morgan, because of the accuracy of the throw, he now has leverage against both of these guys. So he's going to be able to scoot past them and get into the first down yardage and some. He's going to get another 10 yards past the first down marker, okay? So that's another thing where Bryce Underwood has improved throughout this season, is ball placement has, generally speaking, improved from spring game to first game of the year, from first game of the year to fourth game of the year. And I'm hoping he can take another jump after the bye week as well. So I want to highlight this play for two reasons. First reason, it's a cool play. Second reason is that this was a designed run. I've seen a lot of people talk about like, oh, Bryce Underwood just saw the C's part and then, took off up the middle for a touchdown. No, this is a designed quarterback draw. I'm almost certain. Okay? I am almost certain that this was a quarterback draw. He's going to send a running back in motion here, which, fun fact, him running out here like that is an indication that it may or may not be man coverage. Now, running out over here, and if we go back and if we look at him, where is he looking? He's not looking at shit out here. He's just looking out here for no reason. Bam, takes off. He's not reading nothing. He's just, oh yeah, this is a QB draw play. Bam, into the open field. And he's gone. There's nobody anywhere near him. Great play call after the interception by Sullivan on the defense. Change of possession type play. Big momentum swing in Michigan's favor early on in this game. This right here is just another play from the Central Michigan game that I wanted to go back in time here and highlight, because this is the kind of athlete that you're dealing with at the quarterback position. At this point, it's late in the third quarter. It's 4th and 1. Michigan's going to do a little play action boot here to try and pick up the 1 yard that they need. They're already up 42-3. The game's out of reach. Central Michigan cannot compete with Michigan, so it's not the end of the world if they don't get it. But you see here, Bryce Underwood, play action. Uh-oh, I don't really have anywhere to go with the ball here. This is covered. He's going to get tackled short. This is, it's one-on-one, but that's Kendrick Bell. I don't know if he can get open. This might come open here late. He does have leverage on both of these players, but I don't have time, I being Bryce Underwood, don't have time because this guy right here is getting in my face. So let it roll here. Uh-oh. Yeah, Marlon Klein does, in fact, actually come open here. So if Afobe had been able to get out there and make that block, or hypothetically, if Bryce Underwood had stayed in the pocket back here, Afobe would have been able to make that block. But it doesn't matter because I think it was a designed rollout. Either way, Bryce Underwood, uh-oh, I'm going to get sacked. All right, let me dance around a little bit here. Nah, I got it. I'm him. I'm that guy. All right, so we're just going to go ahead and run for the first down, pick it up easily, stop on a dime, put a little move here on this feckless Central Michigan player here, and roll into the end zone, absorbing a hit like it's nothing. Touchdown, Michigan. I mean, this is just like, in terms of talent, this is a talented quarterback, man. Like you could see why he was the number 1 overall recruit in the entire class. The talent jumps off the screen. And Michigan, starting in this Central Michigan game, they've been more willing to utilize that athletic talent. So that's always a good thing here. We're going to go back in time here for this final play that we're going to break down for Bryce Underwood before we get into our, final review sort of thing. Here on this play, they've got Hogan Hansen in motion this way. He's going to come back at the snap. We're not here. 3rd and 3, just need 3 yards. Go ahead and pick up the first down here. Simple pass, simple play. It's ran and executed well. Now, Bryce Underwood here, you could tell that he's just like way more comfortable right now throwing on the move than he is standing in the pocket. See here, it's an easy read. He's wide open. All of the defenders are back here. There's just simple. Simplicity is how young quarterbacks gain composure. They gain confidence by doing simple things over and over again. And then you sprinkle in the more complicated stuff, which Michigan did against Nebraska to a certain extent. So I'm hoping that after the bye week this week that they're going to sprinkle in some more of that stuff and that Bryce Underwood will actually be able to do it. Because they tried to do some of that more complicated stuff against New Mexico and against Oklahoma, but it didn't particularly work out all that much. Here you go. He just throws a dart. Beautiful ball placement. We're going to back up a little bit because I misclicked. Ball placement is beautiful. It's right where it needs to be. He can turn upfield, get the first down. Nice and easy. He doesn't need to turn around. Doesn't need to do anything. He keeps his momentum. Just catch the ball, turn upfield, get the first down. Excellent ball placement. From the Oklahoma game to the Central Michigan and Nebraska games, the biggest improvement that Bryce Underwood had, aside from showing the athleticism, was ball placement. The ball placement was more consistent, okay, which also led to more drops because the wide receivers didn't catch the ball, but it doesn't matter all that much. Michigan won both games. So, yeah, that is all of the film that we're going to break down today. I hope that you enjoyed that part of this. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up by doing an overview and talking about really what I've seen from Bryce Underwood from the spring game all the way to the Nebraska game. Hello, Nathan from a different future, one in which where I shaved this time. Wanted to go over a couple of points here before we get into the Wisconsin film, because this video took so goddamn long to make. I actually have another game to break down now. So we're going to do that here in a second. But one of the points that I wanted to make that I didn't actually make while I was breaking down the film, because I was focused on breaking down the film, not looking at patterns, was the big difference, or a big difference, between the first two games and then Central Michigan and Nebraska were the lack of movement outside of the pocket, okay? And that layers concept, which I accidentally broke down several times in the earlier section of this video, that appears to be a Bryce Underwood favorite. That appears to be one of the plays that he feels comfortable reading the field and looking at, and running that play he feels more comfortable. I mentioned before that he feels more comfortable on the move, so he's got the rollout and stuff like that. So that is encouraging to see. So I just wanted to hop in and mention that pattern that I saw with the layers concept, where he rolls out, and then you have the guy in the flat, and then a guy in the middle level, and then a guy deep. And I thought that was a relatively important play, because they were running that quite a bit, and it was almost always effective, outside of that one pass where Bryce Underwood just barely missed Zach Marshall, the tight end. And maybe if that was Hogan Hansen or Marlon Klein, who maybe Bryce Underwood is more used to working with, maybe that's not a incompletion. But who knows? I'm just some asshole on the internet. Now, we're going to actually go ahead and get into the Wisconsin film. And unlike the first two film segments in this video, where I tried to show the progression of stuff, this video, I'm just going through the film chronologically. I'm just going to watch the film, and then when I have something to say, I'm going to record a segment. So I don't even know what it is that I'm doing yet, because I haven't recorded it yet. So let's figure out what the Wisconsin film looks like, and then we'll do a wrap up right at the end. All right, let's get into it. So somewhat ironically, we have here the very first play of the game that I feel like deserves, or at least warrants, some amount of breakdown. All right. So over here, you've got Andrew Marsh down here on the bottom of the screen. We'll talk about him, I imagine, later. And then we have McCulley up here at the top. This is the first play of the game. Bryce Underwood is going to turn around, actually hand the ball off to Haynes or Marshall. I can't tell if that's a 22 or a 23. I think it's Haynes, but I could be wrong. And then he's going to pitch it back to Bryce Underwood. It's going to be a little flea flicker. Basically, what's going to happen, McCulley's going to come across over the field over here, and Marsh is just going to run a flat out and straight up deep route. So this is the first play of the game. We're going to let it run. And eventually, Marlon Klein, number 17, down there, he's going to try to release down the field. He's going to block a little bit and then try to release down the field. It was Haynes, 22. Okay, that's it. And he actually fell down. But he's supposed to be an outlet, so if he doesn't fall down, there's a solid chance that he's just going to drift out here a little bit, and then that's where Bryce Underwood is going to go with the ball. But that's not what happens on the play here. Bryce is going to look at it. It's not open initially, so I'm going to take back, and I'm going to kind of funky, really wonky, you know, both of his feet he's jumping, so that's not great. Didn't really get a full arm extension either. If I back up here, oh wait, I have to be here. We back up a little bit, and you see here, really tight motion, not a whole lot of air under this ball. It doesn't help with the fact that you're jumping. And then you're going to see down here, he kind of short arms this. Now it's going to result in the play action. And Joel Klatt was just like, oh yeah, it's a great play. Forcing him to come back to the ball, so fight through the defender and get the play action. That shit wasn't on purpose. There's a non-0% chance that it was. I don't believe you if you think that this was on purpose. I think this is what we would refer to in the business as a happy accident. Nevertheless, ended up being a big play. I also do like that Bryce Underwood in this game seemed to trust his receivers more now that they were letting Marsh start. And McCulley got more targets. He had 100 yards in this game. So, yes, I think that is very cool to see, because I don't think a couple weeks ago he lets that ball rip. I think he's either going to try to take off or just force the ball somewhere else. I don't really know what he would try to do. But I think he's starting to trust his receivers more now that they're kind of letting, maybe more talented isn't the correct word, but they're kind of letting the guys that he feels more comfortable with, like Andrew Marsh, get on the field more. So this is a couple plays later on the same drive, this opening drive here for Michigan. And this is something that I noticed on Saturday here a little bit. I think this is something they worked on with Bryce Underwood during the bye week. Let's look at his head here, pre-snap. The majority of what's going on here is pre-snap. Wisconsin is going to blitz. Actually, I don't know if both of these guys or if only he's going to blitz. I think both of these guys are going to blitz, which is going to leave the middle of the field wide open. Klein is going to come out over here and run a little curl route or whatever. That doesn't matter. We got McCulley out here running a speed out for the first down. I'm not particularly sure what the hot route would be. Typically, it isn't the outside wide receiver, but it doesn't really matter. This play is about Bryce Underwood pre-snap. So if we look at where his eyes are, he's out here checking out these three guys here. So the first thing you notice here, where's he looking? Oh, he's looking right at me. Where's he looking? He's looking right at me. Because you see, if this was man-to-man, he'd be looking here, he'd be looking here, and he'd be looking here. But all three of them are looking right at the quarterback, signifying that it's zone. Even down here, he's also looking at the quarterback. Okay, so this is something we pointed out earlier on in the video that he didn't particularly do a very good job at, all right? So based off of the pre-snap read, which is zone coverage, the correct throw is down here to him, because what's going to happen is that he's probably going to bail at least a little bit, even if it's cover 2 press, which it doesn't look like it's cover 2. Okay, it doesn't look like that, because we've got this guy, he's up a little bit too far in order for this to end up being cover 2, unless they're disguising it, and if they are, good for them. This guy is kind of a non-factor, at least for the out route down here. So Bryce Underwood knows pre-snap, this is most likely where I'm going to go with the ball. Now, as Bryce Underwood brings his head back to the middle of the field, he's going to look at the linebackers again. He's going to send the running back in motion and snap the ball. Now, at the snap, okay, so there are three, I've said this before in previous film breakdowns, I'll say it again here. There are three things that you look at when you're doing film: pre-snap, at the snap, and post-snap, all right? So, at the snap, what are we looking at here? Okay, all 4 linemen are coming. Now, that happens most of the time. But sometimes, you'll see an end drop back. Okay, so that's always something that you like to see. And then both of these guys are coming up into the middle of the field. And Bryce Underwood is going to know that. And he's going to be like, oh, I got to get the ball out. I have 5 guys for, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 guys for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 defensive blitzers here. So I've got to get the ball out fast. All right. Now, I don't know if the hot read, the check, would have been the Klein or not. I don't particularly think it matters, because if there was no blitz, let's pretend for a minute, well, that's the defensive line. Let's pretend for a minute that this guy and this guy aren't blitzing. Well, they're right here. So Klein is not the option. But McCulley is. So if there was no linebacker blitz, McCulley is the correct read down here, at least at the snap. Now, because of the blitz, there's nothing really to look at post-snap. Bryce Underwood is going to deliver a very catchable ball for McCulley, who's going to get the first down and get out of bounds, okay? So this play shows me that Bryce Underwood is maybe starting to recognize pre-snap signals for what the coverage is going to be in terms of man versus zone, but also what the actual play the defense is running might end up being. Let's back up here again, go back to the beginning. Again, what did I say pre-snap? You look for zone, man versus zone. Corner, where's he looking? He's looking at the quarterback. Free safety, now the free safety is not generally who you want to look at to figure out, because he's pretty much always looking at the quarterback. But then you got the strong safety over here, bam. Slot corner, bam. Outside corner, bam. They're all looking at me. If I'm Bryce Underwood, and I know I'm Showtime. I'm big time. I'm that guy. I'm celebrity making $3 million a year. I get it. They all want to look at me. But when you're playing football, it's probably because it's zone coverage, all right? And he's also going to know, because of the actual physical alignment, that the most likely zone coverage that is being ran here is probably either cover 3, where he moves down in here, and then he rotates back, and he bails at the snap. Or they're running maybe cover 4, where these guys are going deep, just based purely off the look. If this was 1st and 10, cover 4 would be more of a realistic option, but it's not. It's 2nd and 4. The only 2 real plays that this could be without knowing it was going to blitz, which the linebackers, they're a little bit heavy on their toes, but not really. They're actually doing a pretty good job of disguising the fact that they're going to blitz on the snap. So kudos to them. But the only 2 real options based upon the lineups here is a cover 3 bail, and based off of the way that the defense is aligned and also the down and distance, is a cover 3 bail, which is kind of what it ended up being. Or he's going to play cover 2. They're going to rotate the safety over here. They could play man-to-man, but that's not the read. But hypothetically, they could have been disguising it. Now, a lot of defenses to college level don't do that because it's a little bit too complicated for the defenders to deal with. Nevertheless, after the snap, it becomes very clear what's going on. Bryce Underwood knew it was either going to be cover 2, in which case McCulley was just going to have to beat the press, which he does anyway, or this corner is going to bail out because he's got to cover this whole third of the field, which is exactly what happened. If we look here, he's up because he rotated down to cover the linebackers, which is the same thing he would do in cover 3. And the free safety back here has bailed out. And we have Donovan McCulley catching the ball for the first down. High-level stuff by Bryce Underwood here on this play, at least. So this play is a couple of drives later. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to send Andrew Marsh in motion across the field. Again, this is another way to help Bryce Underwood signify if this is man or zone. If this is man coverage, what you're likely going to see is this player right here running over here to then cover Andrew Marsh in the slot. Okay, so that's not what we see. So that's a major signifier that this is zone coverage. Now, once again, you've got your corner looking out here. Where's he looking? There we go. You got your corner out here where he's looking. Where is he looking? There we go. Okay. He's looking there, obviously. There we go. Okay. A lot of signifiers for zone on this play, which the majority of the time it's just going to be zone defense. There are not a lot of teams in college or especially the NFL that run majority man coverage. Nevertheless, you still have to read and figure out what the defense is going to be in, all right? So here on this play, the play design here is pretty simple. We're going to run a hitch and out here with Klein here. And then we have Zach Marshall all the way on the outside here for some fucking reason. I don't know why. I imagine this is meant to be Hogan Hansen, but he's hurt, so he's not doing it. But he's going to come out here, and he's also going to run a hitch. And Marsh here is going to run a little fade, all right? Now, what you're going to see is because this is zone coverage here, you're going to see him tackle Klein here, and then Marsh is going to get passed off by this guy to the corner, and the corner is going to leave Zach Marshall on his little hitch route to him, okay? So Bryce Underwood, and this is the important thing, watch his head on this play. I'm going to let it run now. But watch his head. Oh, and then backside, before I forget, backside, Andrew Marsh is running a dig route. That's going to be important later. And then lastly, you've got Haynes here on just like a little release route here. All right, so this is the play. Now, hypothetically, if it was man coverage, you'd be looking to throw the slot fade because there's probably no scenario where this safety right here is going to be able to get out there to deal with Andrew Marsh. But that's the pre-snap read. At the snap now. Look where his head is. He's looking out here, okay? And when you look out here like this, he's going to say, oh, okay, they've got a dude. They've got a dude for a dude. If the corner drops back, which he is, and again, look at his eyes. Where's his eyes looking? Right over here, all right? So if the corner bails, the slot fade is not an option, okay? Hypothetically, he probably, if he wanted to, could have led Zach Marshall. I'll let it run a little bit. Could have led Zach Marshall outside and got him up the field. Didn't. Now look where his head is, coming off of it. Now he's looking at the dig, all right? And he can't see it right now. Okay, because if you wait a second, here you go. Okay, he's got a nice, clean pocket. So he's got time, all right? And as we see, as he releases the ball here, look, this is when he's throwing the ball. Now, he's open, don't get me wrong, all right? So it's not that big of a deal. But I think he comes off of this a little bit too quickly because he's got time in the pocket still. And if you look here, there is a throwing lane right here for Andrew Marsh, or that's McCulley, not Andrew Marsh, for McCulley to come across the middle of the field and get a nice big gain. So you can see here, he was looking out over here, He wasn't even looking up here. He's drifting this way, and he's still got a pocket here. So if he now throws it over the middle right here, this is going to be a big gain. He doesn't. He dumps it off. It's not the end of the world. Oh, that was Marshall, not Haynes. But it's not the end of the world. It's still 7, 8 yards, something like that. So it's not the end of the world. The big thing that I noticed live looking at this was his head is actually moving for the first time that I've seen him, or at least that I can remember from watching the film. He's going to start looking out over here. He's then going to move to his second read, which is over the middle of the field. Doesn't like it. Okay. Even though he's got the pocket, he doesn't want to wait for this to get open across the middle of the field. Oops. There we go. So he's going to dump it off to Marshall and pick up something. Now, 1st and 10, you don't need the yardage, so to speak, so it's not the end of the world to not rip it in there. Doesn't matter that much. Whoops. I just thought, great to see him moving his head, looking at the full field. That's fantastic. I cannot remember a single play where he did that before the bye week. Genuinely, I do not remember at any point that happening before. So I noticed the fuck out of this when it happened live. All right. I was like, holy shit. I jumped up and pointed at my TV. It was fantastic to see. All right. However, I do think he came off of McCulley maybe a little bit too quickly, because I do think that was probably there. But in the grand scheme of things, that's a nitpick, and it doesn't mean a whole lot. All right, here we go. Final play before the half, or second to last play before the half, but the final play I'm going to break down before we get to the half here. This is an RPO, which Michigan does not run a lot of, despite Bryce Underwood, I think, being very good at it. But it's not typically a Chip Lindsey thing. So we'll see here what happens here, okay? So on this play, Bryce Underwood is going to decide whether to hand it off to the running back or to pull the ball and throw it to Samaj Morgan on a little quick in-breaking route here, all right? And you're going to see Samaj Morgan's wide open on this play. Now, the difference between an RPO and a play action, and this is a cheat sheet if you want to notice, okay? The difference between an RPO and a play action is the offensive line, okay? Because RPO, they're run blocking. It's called a run-pass option, okay? So the offensive line is run blocking. And when you look at this offensive line, they aren't really pass blocking. Look at him. He's moving to the second level. He's pushing this guy around. He's pushing this guy around. All right? He's going to yank it. And then, again, look at all these offensive linemen. They're moving down the field. They're trying to run block here. Okay? And Samaj Morgan is going to be one-on-one with the slot corner. And he's open. And the ball's going to hit him right in the hand, and Samaj Morgan's going to fucking drop it. Now, if you look look at this. Oh, my God. If he's got the ball in his hand right now, he's one-on-one with this motherfucker for 30, 40 yards. God, that one hurt. That one hurt. This drop hurt. That one hurt. Every now and then, I'm not overly critical of wide receivers who drop the ball, but every now and then, I'm just like, come on, man. Okay? Because sometimes drops are just mental issues, confidence issues, whatever you want to talk about. So you don't want to like pick on them or whatever the fuck. But like, that one was bad. That one was bad. All right, so we're back after the half here. And Bryce Underwood, we're going to be running that little bootleg levels concept here that we've got going on. Samaj Morgan is going to go in motion, and then he's going to run a little route over here. And Andrew Marsh is going to run a little out right here. Effectively, the McCulley route and the Samaj Morgan route are clear out routes designed to push all of the defenders back to make them cover that. And then Andrew Marsh is going to come over here and be open past the second level down here, but before the third level down here. All right. That's the basic idea of the play. And as we're going to see here, Bryce Underwood, very, very comfortable in this type of play. Now, the first thing he's going to do, which doesn't make a lick of goddamn sense to Nathan, but it doesn't matter, is that he's going to look over here. Despite there being no receivers over here, there's nothing over here. I don't know what he's doing, but it doesn't matter that much. Then he's going to kick out and move on. And the impressive part to me in this play, look at his eyes. Where's he looking? He's looking over here. He's looking here, maybe, or he's looking here. All right. In reality, I think he's probably looking at the deep route here to see if he's got leverage. He doesn't. This is the corner over here, kind of off the screen. So that's going to take this play out of motion, which is where he wants to go. He wants to go deep. Okay, cool. Now I need to come off of that, and I need to readjust. Bam. Now where he's looking. Now he's looking right over here. All right. So he's going to see the free safety, which is just off your screen right here. You can see his shadow right there. That's the free safety. So this Samaj Morgan in breaking route over here is not the answer. But if I look here, this is the second level of that defense here. What did I say in the beginning of the play? These guys are all going to be sucked up because of the drop back and because of the two clear out routes. The third level's gone. So that means Andrew Marsh is open. Now, this guy, because Wisconsin has a very well coached and very good defense, he actually does a great job on this play. He does about as good a job as you can on this play. He gets back, and this is going to take a perfect throw from Bryce Underwood. Just barely misses this kid's hand. Perfect throw to Bryce Underwood, or from Bryce Underwood to Andrew Marsh for a big, big gain. Beautiful throw. Big time play by Andrew Marsh, and most especially by Bryce Underwood. But again, the big thing here is his head and his eyes. He isn't fixating on the one play, on the one route. He's going to move his head and look at the different options, which is not something he was doing earlier on in the year. He just wasn't. Okay? Bryce Underwood is getting better basically every single week playing the game of football. This is a tremendous talent. If he keeps progressing like this, he's going to be doing full field reads consistently by the end of the year, which may or may not happen, but his rate of progression is truly astonishing right now. Okay, so this is the next play. You remember a little bit earlier when I was being a little bit critical of Bryce Underwood not understanding leverage and the way that things work? Well, here on this play, he kind of gets it a little bit. It's just a little bit inconsistent right now because he's a young player. All right. This is effectively a play where this doesn't matter, and this doesn't matter. It is a 5-wide set here, but really it's just these two guys here. You just want something quick to get some positive yards here after a penalty on first down. So this is just a slant. This is just a slant. Now, if you look at him right here, he's looking here. He kind of was sweeping across the field because that's what you do. But right now he's kind of looking at this guy right here. Okay? There's a decent amount of separation from Klein here on the outside to him on the inside. And when you have an in-breaking little slant route right here, that leverage matters. Now, if you go over here, there's not nearly as much separation, okay? And you can pretty safely assume in a 5-wide set that both of these guys are going to get a little bit wider. But he has more room to play with out here because he's lined up further inside, because if it's a quarterback run, they need somebody to get up in here. So, at the snap here, Bryce Underwood understands that this is probably going to go to the slant over here on the right. So what he's going to do is he's going to snap the ball. And at the snap, he's already starting to get wide. He's over here. He's glancing at this guy, but then he's still kind of keeping an eye over here. Bryce Underwood. Again, real quickly, he's going to look over here to keep him right here. And then he's going to come across right over here. So this is effectively, even though it's zone coverage, it's one-on-one right here. Zach Marshall is going to win the matchup. He's open. Bam. Hits it right on stride. Allows, the ball placement's excellent. Allows him to get upfield for more than 10 yards. This is a nice quality gain here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 yards here on 1st and 20. That is Bryce Underwood understanding the pre-snap leverage of the defense and figuring out exactly, and more importantly, correctly, where he needs to go with the ball. All right, I got to be honest with you. I haven't talked about Chip Lindsey a whole lot in this video, or at least this section of the video. But this play call, I don't like this play call at all. This is effectively just 4 verts of this play here. And I get that it's 3rd and 9 and you want to score, okay, but you can come up with something a little bit better than just fucking 4 verts here. But also, this play by Bryce Underwood isn't great, all right? So we're going to get into it here. He's going to snap the ball eventually. He's going to snap the ball. And we're going to see as the play develops here. Okay, first things first. He's kind of looking over here. Oh, okay. He's not even looking at me. This is a double team on McCulley. Why? Because he's the X wide receiver. He can go up and get the ball. Okay, so he, once again, is going to come off of that. And he's going to look back over here. All right. Now, he notices the safety is looking out here for these guys, which means, effectively speaking, that Klein is on the inside of this guy, so he doesn't matter that much. Klein is effectively one-on-one with this backer right here. Okay, so that's a good matchup. But, he's going to feel some imaginary pressure. It just doesn't exist right now. He could be standing straight up. He could have stepped up into the pocket and delivered a strike here. Because as we'll see, Klein isn't not open. If he rips this ball and puts it on the back shoulder of Marlon Klein, there's a decent chance this is a touchdown. Instead, he kind of just panics. And this is something that happens to young quarterbacks when their first read is taken away. Occasionally. Okay. Now, Bryce Underwood has kind of shown the ability to not be able to get off of, that was horrible fucking phrasing. He has shown an inability to move past his first look on the field earlier on in the season. So it is progress that he's moving off of McCulley here. It's also worth noting that he recognizes what's going on with these two guys. He's on the outside. He's irrelevant. He is moving out here. So Klein is the correct option. He's one-on-one with this linebacker. Now, he's either going to have to loft the ball and put it right back here and hope Klein can get it, which is a very risky play, but hypothetically could work. Or you step into this throw instead of falling backwards on your back foot, on your heels, and you rip it into Klein over here somewhere. You throw it to his back shoulder. Instead, Bryce Underwood ends up throwing it to, like, the linebacker doesn't exist, and he's just all alone. He's going to drift into this ball. But that's not what happens because the linebacker is there playing good defense, okay? So this is a little bit of a learning moment from Bryce Underwood here. He got a little antsy in the pocket, kind of panicked, but there was still a play to be made, okay? And this is progression. Even though I'm being critical, this is the next step for him because he's moving now, at least in this game, relatively consistently off of his first read Now moving on to a second read, okay, which is a massive improvement because he wasn't really doing that. We kind of saw glimpses of it against Nebraska, but even then it wasn't very consistent. Now he's moving off of that read, but he doesn't trust himself quite yet to be able to throw a tight window pass here to Marlon Klein inside, because that's the correct read. That's the play here. He makes the right decision in terms of who to throw the ball to, but it just kind of I think he feels some imaginary pressure. Maybe I think he's not used to not having his first look be open. I think there's a lot of things here that young quarterbacks struggle with, and he's going to get better at it because he's already gotten so much better from week 1 and week 2 to this game right here. So he's gonna figure it out. This play we're gonna break down here pretty quickly. This is the big play down the field on the go route to Donovan McCulley where he makes that incredible, manages to get a foot in bounce here. I'm bringing this up for one real reason here, okay? And that is the little stuff, all right? Because Bryce Underwood is getting better and better at the big picture stuff, and he's going to get better at all this other kind of stuff, okay? So, Andrew Marsh is also open here on this play, but as we'll see here in a second, Donovan McCulley's wide open, okay? He's wide open. This is the correct decision to throw this here. But Bryce Underwood leaves the ball short, okay? If he puts the ball out here, which is something, by the way, for a guy that has as strong of an arm as he is, this is a consistent thing that you see on film right now. He does leave the deep ball short a little bit. Now, McCulley goes up there and makes the catch, manages to get a foot in bounce. So it's a great play by Donovan McCulley. But again, this is a little bit nitpicky, okay, because it's a big 30-yard gain. But man, if he leaves it out here and hits him in stride, it damn well might be 6. All right. So I just wanted to throw that out there. I've been very positive in Bryce Underwood this video. I think I've been more than fair. These are all not big critiques. Like, there's nothing game-wrecking here, but I do think it's important to point them out. Okay, so this play right here, I'm just going to let it run because I don't really need to break down the X's and O's here. I just want to give my take on this play because I do think it's a little bit more nuanced than everything else here, okay? A, nobody's open. I'm under pressure. They blitzed. Okay, so I'm going to be an athlete, get my face mask raised. But I'm going to be an athlete, and I'm going to get out of here. And I could probably run for the first down right now. But instead, there's a receiver open, okay? And I want you to look here, okay? Drops have been a major problem for this team. But Kendrick Bell is 5 feet off the ground and just barely get into this ball. Okay? And it's a rocket. It's a goddamn rocket. Look at him pull back and fire this thing. Bam. All right? Kendrick Bell is so stupidly wide open here. I would consider this drop, quote unquote, more on Bryce Underwood than anything else. And again, it's not the biggest thing in the world, but you don't need to rocket that ball in. There's nobody within 20 yards of him. He's on the fucking ground. He's, doing whatever he's doing over there. And you've got Andrew Marsh and 2 guys over here. There's fucking nobody anywhere near him. He is so stupidly wide open. You don't need to rocket that ball in there. Just get it near him and give it to him light enough to where he can catch the ball, okay? Now, he should have caught the ball still, all right? I'm not saying that Kendrick Bell is blameless here, okay? But Kendrick Bell is like the 6th string wide receiver. He's not used to Bryce Underwood, okay? So, I don't know, man. There's blame on both parties, both Bryce Underwood and Kendrick Bell on this play here. I don't think it's as one-sided as a lot of people are talking about. You don't need to rocket that ball in there. You just don't, okay? And also, he absolutely should still catch the ball, okay? But, I don't know, it was just something that bothered me in some discourse that I saw on Twitter. But It's whatever. It doesn't matter that much. Okay, so this is going to be the last play of the Wisconsin game that we're going to break down here. So on this play, they're going to run a little fake motion screenplay to Samaj Morgan and then get the ball to Donovan McCulley out here. Because Donovan McCulley is going to act like he's going to block. And Samaj Morgan is going to get the ball. Bryce Underwood's going to give them a pump fake. And then you can see he's got his arms out, not like he's running a route, but like he's fixing up to go and block this guy right here. And then he's going to slip past him. Now, the only thing I say here, because this is a good play design, the only thing that I say here is that he's too Lofton with the ball. I would have put the ball on a line like this to get it to him quicker, as opposed to what he did, which is more like this. Because Donovan McCulley is going to have to go up to get this. And this is what we called in the old days a hospital ball. All right? Because he's going to get lit the fuck up if this is a better defensive player here. But he kind of sucks. Doesn't go for the big hit. Ends up missing the tackle. And Donovan McCulley's almost going to get into the end zone. Now, it doesn't matter because it was a big play. But, again, Bryce Underwood has progressed to the point where the little stuff like this is the next step for him to go from being a really, really good player to a genuinely great quarterback. So, yeah, after a little bit, just under an hour and a half of film breakdown, here we are. We're going to go over a couple of the big points here. What we saw early on with Bryce Underwood is he struggled to read the defense not only pre but also post-snap early on. Now, he got better post-snap quicker than he got better pre-snap. However, he got better pre-snap and post-snap within the same season, not even 6 games into the season, okay? He's not even halfway through his first season, and he's already dramatically improved, okay? A lot of that is he himself getting better and recognizing things more consistently. However, I also need to give credit to Chip Lindsey and Sharon Moore for realizing after Oklahoma that we've got to do things to help out Bryce Underwood a little bit, okay? A little bit more, I should say. And they did that. They've run a ton of those bootleg layers concepts that Bryce Underwood seems to be really, really good at. They've run some more RPO the past few weeks. They've gotten the quarterback run game going a little bit more. So, yeah, they did a lot to help him develop and move on going forward. Bryce Underwood himself, I think, has gotten better ball placement. Now, it's not perfect, but I think he's gotten better with ball placement. I think he's gotten better with not locking into receivers, okay? And again, it's still not perfect. We haven't, outside of Oklahoma, he hasn't really been under all that much pressure. Like, he's been under pressure in specific instances, but not as bad as Oklahoma since Oklahoma, okay? And I don't think USC this week is going to put pressure on him like that. Nevertheless, I do think he's probably gotten a little bit better under pressure. I think the ball placement has improved tremendously. You're actually seeing him this past week against Wisconsin actually read the defense and move past his first read, which is not something you saw before the bye week. It just wasn't. You're seeing him lock on to receivers less and less. You're seeing him better recognize the defense pre-snap nowadays. So, yeah, this is a lot here that is helping Bryce Underwood out tremendously throughout this whole process and stuff like this. So, I believe in this coaching staff. I believe in Chip Lindsey. I believe in Sharon Moore to a certain extent. And I believe in Bryce Underwood. Okay? That's what I believe in. I think this team and Bryce Underwood specifically is going to continue to get better as the season goes on. This week is a major test against USC. But Now, of course, what's the next step for Bryce Underwood in this process, okay? Now, I made this graphic a week ago before the Wisconsin game because I was trying to get it out last Wednesday. That's why there was no video last Wednesday. I actually recorded another video. The audio got corrupted, so I didn't upload it. It's whatever. It doesn't matter. I think I talked about it in my predictions video on Friday. Doesn't matter. So the next step, more one-side reads, more design runs, less drops from the wide receiver. That didn't happen this past week. But you saw more one-side reads where he was actually reading this past week. You also saw him do a couple of full field reads as well. So, yeah, that was impressive to see. Really liked looking at that. And that is the next step. But what is even the step after that? Okay, he's got to get better at the little things, all right? I nitpicked the ball placement. I nitpicked the layering of his passes itself, okay? I said sometimes he needs to throw the ball more on a line, like that play against Oklahoma. Sometimes he needs to loft the ball a little bit more, like that play this past week to Kendrick Bell, all right? So I think layering his passes is something that is very difficult to do. That's something a lot of even NFL quarterbacks struggle with, okay? But if he can master that, oh boy, you're looking at a generational talent, folks. All right. And my boys over at Darren Knows Ball just did a video about that, so you can go look that up if you want to, talking about generational talent. Nevertheless, all things considered, Bryce Underwood is him. Not that shitty-ass Jordan Peele movie, but he's that guy. He's that dude, my guys. And breaking down this film, I hope I did a fair and balanced, not that I'm Fox News, although I think they dropped that moniker because they realized how nonsense it was. Nevertheless, I hope I gave you a rational, fair and balanced sort of look out here. I just noticed there's something on I don't even know what the fuck that is. There was something on my jacket this whole time. Oh, well. I've already recorded everything. I'm not going back to re-record it. Anyway, I hope I've given you a fair sort of look at Bryce Underwood, where I've highlighted his strengths, what he's gotten better at. And I've also pointed out the inconsistencies and the places that he needs to get better. I don't think I've been too harsh. I don't think I've been too praisey, I suppose. I think I've kind of managed to split this right down the middle. But that's just me. What do I know? I'm just some asshole on the internet giving you his opinion. So at this point, I'd like to remind you to like the video if you liked it, subscribe if you want to see more content like this, and if you disagree with me at any point, or you just have something to say, go ahead and drop a comment down in the comment section below. Be sure to let me know if you want to see more content like this as well. And now, with the outro done and out of the way, there's only one thing left to say, and that is that I'll see you next time.